Farmers has invested in SPP in conducting leadership series, these leadership series events. Today's topic is communicating to influence, and really happy to welcome Amanda Wendling, who is going to be leading the presentation today. Kathy Julian, who has been on all of our calls and who has been a huge support for us throughout this entire leadership series, is here helping as well. So just want to pause and really offer a lot of gratitude and thanks to Farmers. Amanda, Kathy, thank you so much. Really excited to have y'all leading us today. But without further ado, wanted to turn it over to Kathy, who will introduce Amanda to us.
Yeah, hello. Good afternoon, I think, probably for most of you. Welcome back. I'm glad to see such great participation today. I really want to just take a minute and tell you about Amanda, who is our presenter today. A very special person based in Grand Rapids. She'll probably tell you a little bit more about herself. But she has been at Farmers almost 24 years, which I find just amazing, being that I've been there a little under 3 years. That's a long time. And almost 19 years, I think she said, in learning and development. So clearly, you're up for an amazing presentation today. So I just wanted to say a couple of great things about her. We've worked together on a number of projects, a lot on diversity and inclusion for farmers, among a range of other things. But Amanda, thank you so much for the time and effort that you put into today's presentation. And just for everybody on the call, I will be sort of in the background today. I'm going to manage the breakout rooms and help with chat and things like that. So if you have any technical questions, you can chat with me. But otherwise, Amanda, the show is yours.
Oh, so delighted to be here. Thank you so much to Kyle for having us. Thank you to Kathy for all of the logistics that she's in charge of to make sure that we all get to the right place at the right time. So I was scrolling through all of your pictures. It's great to see your faces. That puts those faces to the St. Bernard Project for us. Very quick aside, I have a daughter-in-law who is in her early 30s, and I happened to be scrolling through her pictures on her social media and found a picture of her St. Bernard application for when she volunteered with the St. Bernard Project. So a very long time ago, but a very special connection for us in this St. Bernard Project. So thank you for all of what you do. I know that there are people who count on you and hope that we will be able to, or that you will be able to help them through their very difficult times. So thank you for that. In doing that, of course, that means that you have to communicate with one another and do that in a way that really gets people to action. And you have to move them quickly. You have to move them without offending people or disrespecting each other. And sometimes we just have to step back and remember to use our words and use intentional words that help us do that in the right ways. So we're going to jump right into it because we are very limited. This is normally a 3-day class that we're really compacting for you today. So let's get right to it. Let's go to the next slide. And what I would ask of all of you is to think about in situations where you've been communicating, where you felt as though it was really effective or not really effective. And you're welcome to use either your annotation tool, which you can find by hovering your mouse over your slide. You'll get an option at the very top of your slide for view options. That should give you a drop down where you can click on the annotate tool. You can click right on the slide, put your thoughts in either side. If you know what it looks like and sounds like when someone is communicating effectively, put that on the effective side. If you know what it sounds like or looks like when they're being ineffective, go ahead and chat on the ineffective side. We'll give you just a minute or so to do that. If you cannot use the annotation tool, by all means, go ahead and just jot it in the chat, and we'll have Kathy take a look at that and share some of the things that come up. All right, so we've got you going. Good, good, keep it up. So we've got on the effective side, communicators are clear. On the ineffective, they talk in a loud voice. Sometimes they can really impact the room with that loud voice, sometimes less than the person with the teeny tiny, quiet, but powerful voice. Absolutely. Effective communicators are collaborative, they're prepared, they're practiced. Thank you. We have concise outlined objectives in the chat. Thank you for that. Ineffective, long-winded, or disorganized, or authoritative. Oh, you guys are all just playing right into our topic today. I love it. I love it. Don't listen for learning, or listening is good. Absolutely. Lack of congruence. So what I'm saying really doesn't match the message that's either coming from someone else, or my actions are different than my words. Absolutely. So inconsistency, if sometimes I'm spot on, but sometimes not so much. Let's take just about another 30 seconds or so, get some of those words either on the phrase or on the screen or in the chat. So effective, they take responsibility, they ask questions. Absolutely. Closed loop listening. I don't know that term, and I love that I get to learn something new. So whoever shared closed loop listening, unmute your line or chat in. Give us a little bit more about that closed loop listening. Effective body language, yes. So active listening, okay. All right, I understand that terminology. Thank you so much, Angela. All right, so I see that you're not having trouble with putting the words on the slide for what it looks like when you're effective. You're not having trouble saying what it looks like when we're not effective. So if we know the difference, why do you think it is that we don't always communicate effectively? So if we already know, why don't we always do it? What are your thoughts? Either chat them in or unmute your line. Let me know what you're thinking. Emotions and stress, absolutely, absolutely. Caught off guard, yes. We might even be impatient or preoccupied, absolutely. Time constraints, you bet. Not prepared, you bet. All of those things can potentially make us less effective in our communication. And today is really about knowing those things, but then really understanding what can we do intentionally, either before or during our communication, that will help us stay more on the effective side versus the ineffective. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Kathy. And thank you for clearing those annotations. I appreciate it. Let's go ahead and go to our quote. We have a quote, yeah, no worries. We have a quote from Bert Decker. And Bert and Kelly Decker wrote a book called Communicate to Influence. And I really like what they say here. It says, to create an ideal communication experience for the audience, we must be both intentional about our message and intentional about the way we communicate that message. So with high emotional connection, and we must have it audience-centered. This last phrase is really my favorite. It says, this is the place from which we motivate, shift culture, change minds, and win supporters. Anytime we communicate, we're trying to either inform people of something so they know, or we're trying to persuade them to do something. And if we don't communicate effectively, the chances of either one of those things happening, either they remember what we told them or they do something with what we told them, those chances go down if we don't communicate effectively. So it does take intention. So keyword there is intention. And today is all about being intentional in our communication. So let's take a look at our agenda, Kathy, which is our next slide. All right, so you're going to see some things happen here, and maybe throughout the session you'll pick up on what I'm doing. But here's our objective. Here's our goal or purpose. It's to become more intentional about what we communicate and how we communicate it. We're going to do that using the letters of SBP. So we're going to talk about the styles of influence and emotional intelligence. We're going to talk about building and delivering effective messages. And I mean, when I say effective messages, this can be a one-off conversation. It can be a one-on-one with your team or your lead. It can be an email that you're writing. All of these things can use the same structure. And then the last is purposeful virtual engagement. So you're already winning here because all of you know how to use the tool. You're actively using the chat. You're using the annotation. We'll talk about a couple of other ways that you can engage your participants as well. We'll do that through standard group discussions, as you see on the right, breakout conversations. We'll have a couple of those, and then we'll do some planning for action as well. So this is the goal. We're going to follow the SBP model, and we'll get through it together. So let's go ahead and jump to the next slide. So our first topic is styles of influence and emotional intelligence. And we're going to jump directly to the next slide, which is who influences you. I'm going to ask Kathy to put you in breakout rooms. As you're entering the breakout room, actually, Kathy, I'm going to pause this for about 30 seconds. So I want you all to think about, before you get put in your breakout room, think about someone in your day-to-day work that influences you. Think about their characteristics, their behavior. What do they do and say that influences you? Take 30 seconds to think about that. Jot some notes down if you need to, but take 30 seconds to think about that, and then I'll give you further instructions. As I mentioned, you're welcome to jot some notes down because you are going to talk about this with your breakout groups. So jot down maybe the person's name, some of those characteristics or behaviors. Jot those down. All right, take about 10 more seconds. All right, Kathy is going to put you in breakout rooms. And I'm not certain about Zoom if you all will get a pop-up that asks you to join the breakout room. If you do, just accept it. You'll get into your breakout groups, and very quickly, I want you to share with one another. You're welcome to share the person's name. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But share those characteristics. What is it about that person that they say or do that makes them influential to you? And we're going to stay in that breakout room just about 5 minutes. So if you have questions while you're in there, by all means, I believe there should be a ask for help or raise hand in there. But go ahead into your breakout rooms, take 5 minutes, talk to your friends about who is it that influences you and why. What are those behaviors and characteristics? What questions do you have for me about what you'll do in your breakout room? And you're welcome to unmute your line. So Vivian asked, can I define influence? Absolutely. So this is someone that you respect, someone who you would follow if they asked you to do something, and you might, if you had the opportunity, select them as a mentor. This is someone who you find aligns with the way you are at work and the way that you act in your life. So it could be someone in your work, or it could be someone in your life outside of work. So I have a couple of mentors at work that influence me, and then I have a couple of folks outside. I hope that helps. Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions? What other questions do you have for me? Okay, I think we're good to go. I'm scanning the visuals. I don't see anybody with their hand raised, and I don't see anything in the chat. So Kathy, let's go ahead and send them to the breakout rooms. 5
Okay.
minutes, talk
Okay.
about who